Doesn't seem like the defensive players are complaining about the new scheme. They actually seem to be taking to it. Don Brown criticized for being too simplistic. There is a breaking point. Obviously, you can be too complicated, but you want to be somewhat unpredictable.
Yeah, it sounds like from a couple of guys that have talked about it, a couple of players. Dax Hill has talked about it. Aiden Hutchinson has talked about it, where they said it's actually a pretty good balance of complication versus it's easier, or it's understandable, and they can get it. It's unpredictable as well. But from what they've said, it's really more about making sure that the opponents aren't going to be knowing exactly what they're running every single game in and out. That was, as you said, Don Brown, that even if you go back a couple years, Michigan State came out and said it a couple years. We knew what they were going to run before they even ran, on offense and defense. And so I think that's been a focus of Jim Harbaugh, and especially by bringing in Mike McDonald here, they want to make this a little bit different, disguise some things. And I think actually Michigan will have the benefit of the doubt, especially in the first half of the season, just in this, maybe their defense isn't great, but nobody knows what they're going to run at them, right? With a brand new coaching staff there. So they'll get the benefit of the doubt on those in the first, few weeks, at least, until somebody sees some film on them. But even Dax Hill came out, he said, yeah, it's a little complicated. But I think they like that they have to think strategy instead of it's line up and go helmet to helmet and play football. Some of these guys are now thinking about, all right, where am I playing in this scheme? Where's my zone? What's my assignment? And now they feel like they're growing as football players instead of just needing to be the faster, stronger guy on the football field. So from what I've heard out there, it's that these guys are feeling like it's definitely more that NFL and pro style, where you're actually going to sit in the film room and you're going to think about this strategically instead of just, all right, hey, here's your guy and take care of him. And so they've seemed to like that. They've seemed to think that this is going to help them, an Aiden Hutchinson or Dax Hill, who will probably be gone after this year, right? They need that. They want that experience before they go to the draft and get into that next level. And so for what these guys are saying with this new defense under Mike McDonald, it's a lot of good things. And of course, they're not going to talk bad about their new coach, but I think it seems like they're refreshed a little bit instead of the same old thing under Don Brown as it was for the past 5 years.
Justin, I'm glad that you brought up the NFL angle, because we tend to just think about programs preparing players for the next level from a schematic standpoint offensively. Okay, they're a good quarterback development school. The coaches have that track record. Therefore, quarterbacks, wide receivers are going to be attracted. They throw the ball a lot, et cetera, et cetera. But defensively, it's more like individually. Did they prepare and develop that player as an individual player and contributor to become the best singular player that they could be? That's not something that's necessarily talked about a whole lot, that if you're playing in too simplistic of a defense and that's all you learned in college, then you take the next step to the NFL, you're blown away in regards to the complexity of the defense that you're asked to play and the number of defenses that you're asked to play. And that's not something that's talked about a lot, but I got to think was maybe a detriment if word got around that this Michigan defense is not going to prepare you for the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is what Mike McDonald is bringing to the table for sure. It's that he's obviously been a coach with the Ravens. He's seen a lot of NFL offenses and seen a lot of NFL defenses. And now, they can go into that in recruiting and say, hey, we are going to not only prepare you for what's ahead in the next 4 years, we're going to prepare you now as a defense for the next 10 years, for your NFL career. Hopefully, let's, all cross our fingers that every Michigan player gets to that next level. But I think that, that's where you look at a Kwity Paye. You even go to the offensive side of the ball too. You look at a Nico Collins now, who played 100% of starting snaps for in the NFL in his first preseason game. Those guys, the big dig on Michigan is that they don't get the most out of their guys at Michigan, but they develop them pretty good on a personal level to get to that next level, and then they can shine. Now it seems like Mike McDonald's focusing on, hey, we're going to get you developed in terms of strength, in terms of that type of thing. But we also want to develop you, like you said, Mark, to run that scheme that's going to be run at the next level. You're going to be able to pick up things. Kwity Paye, the big thing that they said with him with the Colts, he picked up on new schemes and everything very quickly. So that's what Mike McDonald wants to keep having these guys, that they can go into the NFL. They might not be playing for that national championship year in and year out, but those guys are going to be able to pick up on things and exceed at the next level. And so that's where I think that recruiting could really be helped out. I'll also say Aiden Hutchinson was talking about how he's seen techniques being shown to him that he's never even heard of before. That's a big thing for a guy who has now come back for his senior season rather than going into the draft. For him to come back and say that even before the season has come, that's a good thing, rather than him coming out and being like, yeah, obviously he probably wouldn't come out and say this, but for him to think, well, I'm not really learning anything more. I really, maybe should have gone to the NFL. He's happy where he's at right now because he feels like he's developing himself in new and different ways. That makes a kid more well-rounded when he's going to the draft. And then not only does he know all the head-to-head things that he learned under Don Brown, he now has learned new things from this new coaching staff and can put that into play in this season and also in the future.
Yeah, just imagine the disadvantage of going to an NFL training camp where the players are suddenly bigger, stronger, faster, all that, and just better from a technique standpoint, and you not having the full arsenal that you could possibly have, versus being able to be taught that a year earlier and then test it against opponents and be able to implement that against big-time opponents during a Big Ten football season and prepare yourself better for the NFL Combine and the NFL Draft.